Good morning to everybody. Just talking to iCandy, who's going back in the water this morning. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286. Having a little bit of a frantic start here this morning. Nothing like changing things at the last minute. Patricia and David, of course, and we have this morning 17 degrees. It's still rather nice, except you wouldn't think so. You wouldn't need too much of a palette to paint the outside today. It's grey, various shades of grey. Just thick, overcast grey weather. 1015 steady on the bar, 10 knots from the west-southwest. And was it a bit of drizzle? I didn't see. Oh, it was when David got the newspaper and he said it was a bit of drizzle. But anyway, that's the situation here. And we have got quite warm temperatures in, there's a bit of a problem here with the, it's one of those days. I'm just going to stop the streaming and start it again. Stand by, everybody. Basically, it should be working, but anyway, we'll get online. This is a radio show, so you folk at the other end of the system will be able to hear us. Anyway, I'm booming into Fiji by the sound of it, and hopefully we are everywhere else. Is there anybody else wanting to make contact before I start on the program? Streaming, I'm not sure why that is. But anyway, we'll get moving here. Quite a lot to talk about. I was just chatting to David before. We should make this a kind of a musical show. Doris Day died yesterday, and her big hit way back was Que Sera Sera. And it sort of fits with the weather forecast, doesn't it? We could sort of go, if you ask a question, David could just say, well, Que Sera Sera. Whatever will be, will be. But I think he's going to do it a bit more organised this morning. What's happened? There's a lot of people out there that won't be hearing us on the radio because they're all hovering around 31, the ones that left a couple of days ago. Exocet Strike, Archipelago, Lupin, they're all around the 31 south and 176, and they've got about 13 knots from the southwest. Amazing Grace is around there as well. I think he's reporting westerly about 13. Akushla Mark is further east at 177, and he's got southerly winds. So it's all still pretty chilly for the boats out there, but they're making progress. And believe it or not, Alcyon is actually getting closer to Ryva Bay, and still with red cabbage on board. They're only a couple of days away. I think that must be the slowest trip that they have done. They certainly haven't had good conditions for a catamaran to go against the trades. They're at where are they? They're at 2630 and 146 west at the moment, with only 163 miles to go. And Ryva Bay is a really beautiful spot, so sure they'll be looking forward to that. And quite a few other folk have reported in. I shall bring that up shortly. But at the moment, just a bit of news. I mentioned yesterday that thank you. Scoot says that streaming sounds fine to me, so even though it says it's not working here, it's working. Thank you. All right. Alabama did, in fact, pass the abortion bill. You just have to wonder what's going on in the States. I've got a fair bit of different items from there this morning. There's about 12 other states that are looking to do the same thing. And that means over there that any doctors who perform abortions get a life sentence in jail. Absolutely amazing, particularly since, it hasn't been signed by the governor yet, but she's got 6 days to do that, and she's very anti-abortion. So that is very much likely to go through. There's absolutely no exceptions. Some of them have exceptions for rape and incest. No exceptions whatsoever. So the old 1973 Roe versus Wade is definitely under threat. Absolutely astounding. That's probably going to affect the next elections over there. We thought that they would get on to something somewhat more sensible to occupy their time, but that's what it's likely looking to be. Facebook today started new rules on live streaming. People who break what they call their most serious policies will be kicked off Facebook Live for a period of time, only about 30 days, but at least it's a start. This follows on from the meeting that they're having in France that is led by our Prime Minister Ardern and Prime Minister Macron. So they've come to agreements over there, but the White House has said that they will not sign the international agreement to combat online extremism. Evidently, they have concerns that it clashes with constitutional protection of free speech. So it would seem that, and that coupled with the news from San Francisco, they have become the first city in the US to ban the use of facial recognition technology. So the San Francisco police force are not allowed to use it. It seems that, if you're have got criminal intents, the US is the place to go. You seem to get more protection as a criminal there than the people who are having crimes against them. But certainly the facial recognition technology, when you read about it, how they're using it in places like London, it's absolutely astounding how they manage to keep track of people that they really need to keep looking at. But so if you're that way inclined, San Francisco is the place for you to be. Still in the USA, the birth rate is way down. It's a record low, actually. 1.728 births per 100 births in 2018. 1.728. So less than two people to replace the two people that presumably will pass on.
Who's going to pay my Social Security?
I don't know who's going to pay your Social Security, but anyway, that's what the figures are. It's actually considered to be below the level for the population to replace itself. So those that are youngish now will have to be a little bit concerned that their Social Security won't be paid, and they will have to maybe catch more fish to eat. What else is there? The Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, I don't think anybody that we talk to is ever going to go to the Democratic Republic of Congo. I always love the people that put democratic in their name, because it always means that it's about the opposite.
As long as you do what I say.
Yeah, as long as you do as I say. Anyway, they have a huge Ebola outbreak. Pretty grim, actually. There's over 1,600 cases, 1,100 deaths so far. It's sort of going rampant, and it's not a nice thing to get. So make sure you don't sail. Well, you wouldn't actually be able to sail to the Democratic Republic of Congo, but even if you wanted to go near, not a good idea. Well, what else is there? Just news from here. Yesterday I heard people quite well on my radio, and God knows how, because when I went out to investigate the crackling noise that I had on the radio yesterday, I found one arm of my receiving antenna had come down. We tied it. Actually, there's this papaya tree down in the bottom corner of the garden, and I run this double bazooka down the side of the house, and the bottom end of it is was tied to the papaya tree. Now, the papayas don't actually grow more than about the size of a little orange, but we've had a drought this year, and the tree branches are basically water. I mean, you can just sort of saw through them really, really easily. But of course, they'd all gone rotten, and what we've tied it to just fell. So it's now tied to the retaining wall, so it should see us out, as they say. I always used to be, I used to grimace when my mother would say, "Oh, this will see me out." But yeah, it's now tied to a very expensive retaining wall, so it should definitely do the trick as long as the rope stays in one piece. So that's the story there. A few people are on their way, and I will just have a look at what the reports are in this morning. And a few more people are heading out today. So good luck to another single-hander. Anahata David is on his way today, joining not too far behind Mark on Mapushla. So we do like to keep track of our single-handers out there. A couple of them are having a bit of a problem at the moment. And by the way, Suzanne, I'm not sure that I mentioned that she was on her way to the Coral Sea, but is now probably arriving in Noumea today because she hit something, or something hit her Unfortunately, not a big something, but it did destroy her Aries wind vane. And anyway, Pilgrim reports that it's rained every day since he's arrived in Sabu Sabu, but it's still quite pleasant. And he says that the Fiji check-in is a breeze. They are number 13 on the list, so there's quite a few people have arrived, and there's still a lot more coming. The bar up there is 1011. And the folk in Tasmania have finally broken loose. Sperari and what's his name, Tamariki Peter, they're on their way from Tasmania. A while ago, I haven't heard from them this morning. So anyway,
About the same, really.
about the same, says David. Oh, that's good. And other people, some of them are still in Minerva Reef. Must be, you can't really eat too much crayfish, but boy, it's pretty high in cholesterol, isn't it? Crayfish, they don't
Yes.
themselves.
Yep.
All right, the body to Kaperia is still there. Okay, and that's about it from me, really. I'm just going to check whether I can be heard. I know we've been heard in Fiji, and are we being heard in Vanuatu and Tonga? I wouldn't mind a report. I'm going to give a pause. Good morning, Margie. Go ahead. Oh, thank you very much for that. So, be interesting to see if the check-in at Tonga Tapu is as smooth as it is in Fiji. So, good luck on that one. And what about Vanuatu? Probably still sleeping in Vanuatu. Anyone from Vanuatu? Well, Diogo's there, but they are listening on streaming. Sometimes Vanuatu is not so great for, not Port Vila anyway, too much competition. And they've got a shower of rain there as well, so it looks like it's a bit damp in the Sabu Sabu and Port Vila area. And I suspect that no one's awake yet in New Caledonia. All right, I think that's about it. I will try and remember to check. It is pretty boring, folks, just talking to ourselves here. We're not sure who's out there, how many people. I know we've only got, 4 supporters this year, but we appreciate that support from people. But if you do want to make a contribution to running costs here, it's all on our website, www.ghradio.co.nz. And if you go to that website, you will find some interesting papers to look at on weather, communications, that sort of thing. So please keep in mind that it does cost a fair bit to run a station, what with station licenses and other different products that we need to keep you well informed. So it would be good if we had a bit more support. And even if you just send an email to tell us you're listening, that would be good too. We know that our efforts are not wasted. All right, I'm going to pass the microphone to David, which we do on the half hour every day during the week. Here he is.
Yep, good morning, everybody. And I had a laugh when Trish said she was going to 1,000 watts. You should see our little electric meter out there spinning around when that happens. But anyway, there really isn't much change in the synoptic picture from yesterday. Quite frankly, our severe depression that we've had has moved east to lie well south of the Chathams at the moment, but it still is providing cyclonic flow over New Zealand. And in this flow, the fronts are managing to work north and pretty much over the country. Like I said, or as Patricia said, a bit of drizzle at the moment. Looks like it wants to break up a little bit, but yeah, whenever you've got cyclonic flow, it's you're always going to have conditions like this, and that includes the tropics as well. Anyway, there's another deep Southern Ocean depression just to the southeast of the Australian Bight, and the flows from that depression are linking up with the first depression that I talked about this morning. keeping all of this flow at bay, in other words, keeping it from going too far north, is our new high. And that's sitting over southeast Australia. We mentioned it yesterday, maybe the day before too. And the pressure 1030 millibar, 1030. The high center looks like it will enter the Tasman by tonight, and that will extend a ridge over the cruising routes, which it's doing now actually. So this is very good news for all of you underway and those of you who are planning to depart in the near future. Now this high should reside in the Tasman right through Monday the 20th, and it stays reasonably strong then as well. Still looking about 1030 millibar. Now, cyclonic flow is going to continue over New Zealand through that time period, but from 30 south and northward, the trades will dominate thanks to the high. So we should experience relatively light air over most places up to 30 south, and then the south to southeasterlies will increase 15 to 20 knots, maybe getting up to 20 to 25 knots as you get closer to the islands. So what is going on here? Why is this high hanging in as it is, and why is it going to hang in for a longer period than usual? So to find that out, I looked at the CPC Center. They put out blocking forecasts, and sure enough, there is a nice long wave ridge that's dominating the area, and that is stalling the weather from going north of New Zealand. And thus we're in luck for heading north, quite simply, for a while anyway. In other words, our high is becoming a block. So it will sit there for a while, and all of you yachts that are wanting to leave, well, Friday as an example, will find southerly quadrant winds, and they'll be turning southeast when you get up to around 25 south. A bit fresh then, 15 to 20 or so. And about the same thing on Monday as well. We've heard boats are leaving Friday, but all of it breaks down by around the 25th or 26th. I think that's a Saturday and Sunday. As the high finally does move off, that long wave starts to head east, so the high moves with it. And then we find a depression with its associated front is nearing New Zealand. It'll be in the mid-Tasman, approaching New Zealand at that time. So that'll be about the end of it. But that would be a very long window, which is superb news, really. Okay, up in the tropics now, we've got a very active trough that is lying over the Solomons. We discussed again yesterday this one. It moves east to another disturbance near 8 and 168 east. That's 8 and 168. And then the trough runs off between Tuvalu and Rotuma. Then it goes on to Wallis, then Samoa, then off to the Southern Cooks, where it links up with the depression that is out to the east. So looking at Tonga, satellite imagery shows scattered cloud, and of course scattered showers go along with that. The actual conditions, these are from the airport reports. New potatoes, cloudy, southeast at 5. 25C is the temperature in the bar 1012. And Vavau, pretty fine weather for the most part. It's calm at the airport anyhow. 19C and the barometer 1011. The Hapais are cloudy, southeast 6, temperature 23, a little bit cool there. Actually, it's quite cool in Vavau at 19. Anyhow, the barometer 1012. Tonga Tapu, fine as well, southeast 8, 21C, and the barometer 1014. So for the entire group, I would say winds by lunchtime, we're looking at southeast 15 to 20, and tomorrow probably around the 15 knot range. Now Fiji shows cloud as well. There's breaks in there. There are no trough conditions for Fiji, but I think we could expect isolated brief showers, and the reports from a few boats there have indicated that's the case. The winds southeast about 15 to 20 out in open water, but looks like it'll get windier Friday. I would expect southeast maybe 20 to 25, and this is going to bring rough seas and with it a moderate southerly swell. Winds look to be fresh right through the coming weekend. Monday might even be snotty, looking at 25 knots, gusting to 30 possibly on Monday. Now, Vanuatu has had its share of cloud as well. The worst area is to the north, over the banks, looking at satellite imagery. Winds by lunch should be southeast around 20. There are wind shadow areas, particularly the lee of Santo and Malakula. Those of you that are there know about this. Friday, much the same. And New Caledonia, that shows plenty of broken cloud, moving southeast to northwest, sort of going along with the trades. Fairly breezy, southeast winds up to 20 knots. Breezy Friday as well. Now, this is not particularly good for exploring the outer reefs or the Ilos. We like to see winds around 15 knots or less when we go out to the Ilos. Other than that, you have protection okay, but it just gets a little bit jumpy, a little bouncy, and it does affect the visibility a little bit, water visibility. So we like to see the wind fairly mellow when we bother to go out there. The conditions, Amity Pass, east-southeast 14 this morning, and Ile de Pan reported southeast 16, and Noumea east-southeast 14. So those that have left New Zealand and are not quite out to 34 south, I'm seeing fresh to...
They won't hear you.
Hang on.
They won't hear you.
Oh, they won't hear me, Trish said, but this is of interest for anybody really, because we're giving you model data for the most part. When I say the most part, a lot of times I will modify that myself based upon what I think may be happening. So it may not agree with what you're looking at, might not agree with what the model says at all. But anyhow, the models were not showing these winds that I found on the microwave satellite. Fresh to snotty up there, looking at 20 to 25 west-southwest, and there are areas of 30 knots. And that's not being picked up, that much wind is not being picked up by most of the models. So there you go, another reminder that the model is just an idea. Now, lastly, of some interest, Trish talked about one boat that had a little bit of issue. And Trish has been talking about Jean, who's circumnavigating. She's, 76 now?
Yes.
Anyway, she had a very severe broach and knockdown between Tasmania and the bottom of New Zealand. She's trying to get between Stewart Island and New Zealand as she heads east and then north. And there was some damage to the wind vane and a few other bits, but the yacht came upright fine, and boy, she's still plugging away. Now the blocking high is going to be her friend now, so she should get around New Zealand without further weather drama, we hope. So anyway, I thought that would be of some interest to you. And that's it for me. Any questions or comments? Now's the time, and here's the boss.
Yeah, still getting a little bit of a crackle here, so I have to go out exploring again. After our last effort with antennas, where we completely messed it up, we're sort of a bit reluctant to try fiddling around. Oh, and good luck to Runaway Bay down the road here. They're off to check it out in Auckland today, and they'll be off on their way as well. Yeah, thank you, Diego. I just got your message. I've been worried about the streaming, but it seems to be getting through despite what it says on my computer here. It says welcome back, where I'm obviously never left. No, just a little bit of snap, crackle, and pop, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to Sergio on Sperari on the Hamnet coming up at 9 o'clock, which is in an hour and 20 minutes. That's on 14315. And you folk, no doubt, are all keeping in touch with each other on the SOPAC, the South Pacific Net, Morning and Napier. First of all, they've got a rogue wave and a knockdown. There seems to be the theme this year. I hope there's not going to be any more. That's the third one we know about. They had a knockdown, and then 20 minutes later, a whale humpback just pounded into their bow. There's quite a few whale crashings into boats around the New Zealand coast. They're all sort of on their migration at the moment. But there's not much you can do about them either. They don't show up on the and they don't seem to have their own radar working too well sometimes.
Oh, they have the right of way, maybe.
Yeah, they probably do have the right of way. Maybe these people were motor sailing and should have left them. But anyway, you change your clocks. You see, when we were in Vanuatu, we would just keep New Zealand time. And psychologically, then you get up early, and they get up early, and you can just work at the start of the day rather than the finish of the day. Well, with that thought for the day, I'm going to leave you with the frequency, and we will be back again tomorrow. Anybody who wants to get in touch, because tomorrow is the last day for the week, just send in your questions. The email is ghradio@extra, which is xtra.co.nz. All right, have a good day, everybody. The frequency is all yours. I don't know what's gone wrong.